Hey everyone, how's it going? I am surprisingly nervous because I do stream fairly often, but anytime it's sort of like a big event, I get a bit nervous on stream. If there, at any point during the stream, if there's like any issues with audio or anything like that, please let me know. There is definitely quite a delay, so just keeping that in mind, I guess, as well. But yeah, thank you everyone that's in chat already. I see a lot of familiar faces and some ones that I'm maybe less familiar with too, but I'm so happy to have you here. Obviously, first of all, thank you for 50,000 subs. It's definitely a big milestone. I feel like when I started this channel, I don't know if I ever really thought it would get to this point, but you know, here we are. So thank you, whether you've been here for years or you have just kind of found me recently. Yeah. So yeah, so many harps in the background. I set up like a different camera angle for this because I wanted to look more interesting than just sort of like the cupboards in the background. But yeah, so here's how this is going to work. So we're going to do this live stream. I'm definitely going to be taking your questions live. I've also had like a whole bunch of questions submitted in advance, both on YouTube and Instagram, and like a form that I sent out to my email list and that sort of thing. And then what I'm going to do after the stream is I'm going to edit it down into a video. So I'm hoping that I can speak fairly coherently for future me when I'm editing. But I've kind of sorted the questions into like categories so we can kind of stay on certain themes for a certain amount of time, and it will hopefully feel a bit coherent that way. And then sort of, I think sort of like within the categories, I'll be looking at questions and responding to chat. However, if you ask a question, I've also got Mr. Ragnar Man in chat. He's going to be copying and pasting your questions into my Google Doc, which I will be looking at on my phone to keep track of which questions I've answered, and I'll do my best to get to everyone's. So yeah, just want to say hi to everyone, Melody Sisters and Patty, Caladrius, Michael, Carlos, Aerith, Andrew is here, Dean, Michael, I don't remember if I said that already, but so good to have you all here. So yeah, I guess we'll just kind of get started and start doing some questions. So the first sort of category of questions that I'm going to be going over is kind of like FAQ questions that I get all the time. So the first question I'm going to start with is, how long have you been playing the harp? So I have been playing since late 2008, just after my 15th birthday, and so that puts me at 12 years of playing right now. So I took harp lessons for 3 years, and then did a bachelor degree of music for 4 years, and then the rest of that I've been working as a professional harpist. So another question that I get all the time is some combination of, why did you want to play the harp? What motivated you to play the harp? Do you play any other instruments? How did you get started with music? So we're going to kind of tackle that concept next. So I actually started music with piano when I was in kindergarten. Both my sisters played. I have 2 older sisters, and they both were taking lessons. And so I was like, well, I also want to take lessons. So I played piano. I took lessons for 13 years, all the way up till the end of high school. And during my time in junior high and high school, I also played flute, and I played saxophone in concert and jazz bands. And like I said, I didn't start harp until I was about 15. And I was thinking about this while I was looking at questions, and I actually don't really remember where the idea of harp came from. What I do remember is, as a kid growing up, I always needed to have some kind of idea of what I wanted to do when I grew up. I needed to have a plan. So there was all sorts of like discarded ideas that I had and then decided I didn't want to do it anymore. And so as I was approaching high school, I was like, okay, well, I would really hate to not do music anymore. Like, I can't imagine not playing piano, not playing any instruments. But I don't necessarily like the career options that I see from those. So, like, I don't want to just be a piano teacher. I don't want to be a band teacher. That's a hard job. So respect to all the band teachers out there, but it's not for me. I'm not good enough to be like a pianist as a performer. So, you know, at the age of 14, I was like, hey, you know what would be great? If I start playing harp now and then make that my job. So looking back, that was quite a bold move, but looks like it paid off. So yeah, I think part of that decision also came from the fact that my older sister, who was actually in my Sound of the Wind cover from the summer, she had just gone into music that year when I started high school. So I think that kind of showed me that, like, that's actually an option for me to study. So that's how I started playing the harp. So, yeah. Yeah, a good variety of instruments. Those are the ones that I've played the most for sure. At this point now, I also, like, I've learned how to play ukulele. That's self-taught. Obviously I sing a little bit, also mostly self-taught. We have What's My Favorite Piano Song? Oh, this is actually, I do know this. Livestream number 3 by Liszt. It's beautiful. I love it so much. Hey, Steven, thank you so much. Nice to see you. Okay, so next related question. So FAQ. Okay, so what motivated you to start this YouTube channel? Were you a classically trained harpist? If so, when did you choose to play video game music? Why did you choose that type of music? So kind of all the same idea there. Galadriel says, thank you for making that bold move to go the harp and supply us with your gorgeous music. Well, you're welcome, I guess. But anyway, so why did I choose to start my YouTube channel? Why do I play video game music? So yes, I am classically trained. As I mentioned, I have a bachelor degree in music, which I got from the University of British Columbia in Vancouver. I started my YouTube channel because during my first year of university, I found all of these Zelda covers on harp. And no one had actually covered Gerudo Valley. I watched all these other videos and no one had done Gerudo Valley, and I was like, I bet I could do that. I bet I could do a great job of making harp covers. So I made Gerudo Valley, and over the summer, after my first year of university, and after a week, I remember I posted it, and then I went away to a summer camp as like a counselor. And then when I came back a week later, it had like 1,400 views. And for like a channel that's literally never posted anything before, that was kind of crazy. And I was like, oh, I want to keep doing this. So, I mean, the reason why I play video game music is because I love it. That's the short answer. I've always loved games. Zelda especially always really stood out to me. And it makes me happy. So I feel like that's all that really necessarily needs to be said about that. So Melody Sisters asks, when did you start pedal harp? Did you first start with pedal or lever? And I got another question as well, I think on Instagram, which asked, what was my first harp? So I did actually start with pedal harp. My first harp was a Venus. I don't actually know like the name of the model. I think it's like model number 75. I bought it used. Well, my parents bought it for me. Because, you know, I found a harp teacher and we told her we want to go study at university, again, having never played a harp before. And she said, well, if that's what you want to do, then you need a pedal harp. So fortunately, someone in town was selling one, which like is also very serendipitous. There's not a lot of used harps on the market most of the time. So that was very fortunate. Less fortunate is the harp is not in great condition. I think as a student I didn't really notice, but you know, after I came back from university playing on the university's harps, I was like, oh, okay, this harp is not the best. You can actually see that harp in a lot of my early videos, and some kind of like 2015 into 2016 kind of videos while I was like moved back with my parents for a while before I got my current harp. So then another question that I get a lot is, what harp is that? Or like, what harp are you playing in this video? So over the years, I've had many harps in my videos. So to kind of just go over those, there is the Venus harp, my first harp. While I was in university, I rented an Aoyama Etude. I think for 1 year I had a 47, and then a couple years I had a 46, the Aoyama Etude. And then the light colored wood one behind me is the Line & Healy Style 23, also used when I bought it. And then this black one is the Heartland Harps Legend Carbon Fiber. I love it so much. Also bought it used for a really crazy deal. That was a good purchase. I love this harp so much. I've also used a Dusty Strings Ravenna 26. And there is also in one video a harpsicle. I think it's actually a fullsicle, but I've never actually recorded any audio on a fullsicle or harpsicle. It was just for filming purposes. So I'll just take a couple questions in chat here. So Aerith asks, is it very difficult to play the harp? I used to say before I really started teaching, I used to say, well, you know, it has its challenges like any other instrument, and that is true. But I do think it's hard. I do think it's harder to learn than, say, piano. I think one advantage that learning harp has is that, you know, assuming that you've tuned your harp, it's very easy to get a beautiful sound, as opposed to many other instruments, say, you know, violin or oboe, just as two examples. So that's one really good advantage of it. If you want to play more complicated stuff, it can be difficult. And I find that like the technique, the hand position is quite unintuitive, and I find that some people take to it really well and other people have a really hard time kind of wrapping their fingers around it, and it's certainly not impossible. Certainly not impossible to learn, but you know, I guess in the end it's true that it has its challenges like any instrument. Emil asks, are there any covers you'd like to re-record from your oldest ones? Yes. And I have some plans to do that, which I'm not sure I'm going to divulge in entirety right now, but the answer is yes. Caladria says, honestly, I found the harp harder to start playing on than the violin. That's fair. I think everyone has a really different kind of experience coming into learning an instrument, and yeah, some people find it easy, some people find it hard. I was quite bad the first 2 years that I took lessons. I think my harp teacher didn't think I would make it into university. But fortunately, the third year it kind of clicked for me, and the rest is history, as they say. Oh, hi, Ken! Nice to see you! Well, you know, Patty, if you want to learn harp, well, you know my number. Metaphorically speaking, I guess. But then again, I know you know many harpists, so... I definitely have gotten good at teaching beginners over the years. Oh, this is just water. Not drinking tea. I don't like tea. I really don't. I've started kind of trying to drink tea. So I ordered a cinnamon chai and like a strawberry rhubarb parfait tea. And those ones I can kind of handle because they don't really taste like tea at all. I'm much more of a coffee drinker. Yes, purchasing a harp is another story. Yeah, I have some questions about that later on that I will kind of mention. But, yeah. Okay, so next question that I have, I get asked this all the time, which is, how do you record your harp? What equipment do you use? So I can't get into that, like, super detailed right now, just because that would take up a whole entire video, and I do intend to actually make an entire video about that, hopefully within the next few months. Don't hold me to that, but I definitely would really like to, because I do get asked how I record myself all the time. But to give a short answer right now, I have 2 Rode M3 small diaphragm condenser mics that I use to record in stereo. And then for my camera, I have a Canon Rebel T6. And the secret to getting beautiful footage is getting a good lens, as I recently learned this year. So if you're interested in making nicer videos, look into lenses. That's my advice. Caladris, is one of the questions, how many ribs should I sell for my first harp? No, it's not. Please don't sell any ribs. Please don't. Please keep your ribs inside your body. I have never seen a real lyre. Lyres are completely different instruments to harps, and I honestly don't really know anything about them. So, yeah. All right, so that's kind of all the FAQs, the ones that I get all the time. So now I can just point people to this recording, and it will be there for all eternity, unless I take the video down. But anyway. So the next category I have is kind of like questions about my process, how I make things, that sort of thing. Yeah, lenses and lighting are the way to nice looking video. Absolutely. Hey Christopher, thanks so much. Thanks for being here. Yeah, I'm sure you can find lyres on Amazon. I would be questionable about their quality. I would also be questionable about quality of harps you might find on Amazon, but we'll talk about that later. So, next question I have is, where or how do you find inspiration for arrangements and compositions? And kind of related is, how do you start arranging songs? So the short answer is, if I'm going to do a cover of something, it's a song that I really like. It's a song that I've heard, and if it gets stuck in my head, that's a really good sign. I've tried working on songs that don't resonate with me, and it's just a slog, and I don't like it. So that's kind of thing number one. For compositions, I'm usually inspired by like stories, settings, moods, that sort of thing. So I really am drawn to soundtrack music because I love the way a piece of music can perfectly convey how a character is maybe feeling in a particular moment without any words. I love how like an area level soundtrack can totally contribute to the atmosphere of that location, and you get a feeling of what it's like there from how the music sounds. Or even like in an anime when they have their like little slice of life music playing, and you just feel like, oh, I'm just like going to school and hang with my friends. Like I really love that. So if I'm writing something original, I'll usually try to envision something along those lines, either like a setting, a moment in a story, a character, or like just some kind of mood. And then when it comes to writing an arrangement, so I'll start the process by listening to it a lot of times, and then kind of seeing if I can imagine just in my mind what I want it to sound like. What are some things I could do with it on the harp? I'll think about what sort of range. Do I want it lower or higher? Do I want it nice and slow paced, like long chords? Do I want it fast paced and like lots of 16th notes? What sort of accompaniment pattern do I want to have? And so if I can imagine some of that, then I'll start writing some of it down. I'll maybe play some of it on the harp as I'm going. And then once I've kind of got a rough draft, then I'll take that over to the harp and try and learn it. And then usually that's when it will become apparent if something doesn't work. And then I can edit it at that point. But I find that like if I can't even imagine how I would like to translate it to harp, it's very difficult to kind of go on from that. So yeah, I think that the first step is absolutely just listening a lot and trying to just in my mind kind of imagine what I'd like it to sound like. Hey Poperman, nice to see you. Yeah, hi everyone that's been coming in. So nice to have you all here. So then the next question I have is, how do you pick the songs you cover? So like I kind of mentioned before, it has to be a song that I like. Usually that means that it's from something that I know. So a game that I've played, or maybe watched a playthrough of, an anime that I've watched. That's not always the case. Lilium from Elfenlied, I've actually never watched that, but I think that the song kind of speaks for itself, so I really like that one. A lot of people requested it. So I'll do something that I like, and then I'll try to balance those with sort of things that I hope might be kind of trending and get kind of new viewers into the channel. So if there's a game release coming out, I might try to do something relevant to that. So for example, this year I did Bubblegum KK right when Animal Crossing New Horizons came out. That was actually a video idea that I'd already had for a couple of years, and it just became a relevant time to make it. So that worked out really well. Sound of the Wind, I, again, really, really wanted to make that song for years. And then with the Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles remake coming out, I decided to make it for that. And then with Zelda coming out this week, I did Rivali's theme. So I'll kind of try to balance a little bit of those kind of things. Okay, so I have another question, which I think is an interesting one. The question is, does it get harder to keep improving your skills with time? And I think no. I think the answer to that is no, because when you're just starting out and you're a beginner, like each improvement feels like massive, but you're also like really struggling with just doing the thing at all. And then as you get better, at least this is my experience, like as I've, gotten better and better at harp, I think the learning feels about the same to me. I think the improvements to an outsider maybe are less noticeable, but you're not just trying to like play your instrument at all, which for a long time, like even when I was in university, because I only took lessons for 3 years, so the first couple of years of my degree I was kind of just like trying to figure out how to play. So once you kind of at least have some of that and it starts to feel easy, I think that actually makes it easier over time. We have from MPC, what's your favorite animal? Cats. 100% cats, but I do also love giraffes. Why didn't Iris win? Thank you so much. Thanks for coming by. Really appreciate it. So next up, I have another question. Did YouTube and social media push you or inspire you to be better at the harp than before you started? I don't think so. I feel like social media has maybe exposed me to more musicians than like I would get to see in real life, especially now that I live in Winnipeg and there's not really any other harpists around here for the most part. So in that way, it's good, but I think that no matter the context that I'm playing in, I'll want to keep doing the best that I absolutely can, no matter what. So I feel like classical music did plenty of that even before I got to YouTube. So yes, cats are the best. I love them. Yes, I have 2 cats, as Z Symphonia or Emil has said in chat, Nora and Bilbo. I assume they're like sleeping upstairs somewhere right now. I'm the town harpist, like kind of, yeah. It is basically true. So I have another question here, which is kind of, I don't really know how to categorize it. But this one is, hey Samantha, congrats on 50K. Looking forward to celebrating 100K. Feel free to skip over this question if you'd rather not get into it, but I was wondering how you feel about doing the competition that you did 2 years ago. I know the experience was a negative one, but I was just wondering how you felt about the whole thing now. Do you think it helped you decide what you wanted to do or not do, or if you found it helpful in other ways? Do you think you would do it over again if you had to go back now? So for those of you who don't know, 2 years ago, I did a classical music competition, which was like a nationwide competition, which was in Montreal. And it was really hard. I actually don't consider it a negative experience. It was really difficult for a lot of reasons. But I am really glad that I did it, because like this question said, it taught me a lot about myself. It really did show me what I wanted to do. I feel like when I entered, I was kind of at this crossroads, and I was like, well, I want to record more, and I want to do more YouTube videos, and I also want to like play live, and I want to do Celtic music, and I want to do chamber music, but you really can't do all of those things at the same time. At least I can't. And preparing for the competition, something that really occurred to me was that if you want to be a classical musician and be really successful at it and be, you know, playing at a level where, you know, you're winning competitions, you have to really be in love with it. You have to be thriving on stage. You've got to love all of the prep that goes into it, because anything, if you want to really achieve something, there's a price to pay. And what it comes down to is if you're willing to pay that price. So, you know, when I was preparing for the competition, all I could think of was I really want to play Octopath Traveler music. That's all I was thinking about. I was playing the game at the time, and I was like, gosh, I love this soundtrack so much. And when you really love something that much, all the tedious things, they become worth it. And like, even though they're annoying, like I don't like editing videos. I don't like the video editing process, but I really don't mind it because I love the music and I love sharing it online. And then the other thing that I got out of that competition was I really learned a lot about like my own mindset. I have really struggled with imposter syndrome over the years, and I think a lot of that comes from the fact that I was a late starter on my instrument. Like I said, I only took 3 years of lessons before going to university. That's like a whole other thing, but I think I didn't even realize how much I was like sabotaging my own playing by not actually believing in myself enough. So it was really difficult. I think anytime you do anything where you're really learning about yourself and exploring yourself, that's going to be really hard. And it was, but I absolutely don't regret doing it at all. I think it was really necessary for me to move forward and be really focused with what I'm doing now. So yeah. Another part of the question was if I could go back and do it all over again, would I? And I think that if I went back in time and I still could remember the experience, I don't think I would do it again. Because like, you know, I learned the things I need to learn. But, you know, if I went back in time and I hadn't learned that lesson, then yeah, I would still do it. Because when I entered, like, I was like, I just want to see what I can do here. And I did. So, yeah. If I went back in time, then I could use that year to, like, make YouTube videos and grow my channel some more. So, yeah. Yeah, I've never done, like, an orchestra audition or anything like that, but I can imagine I would hate it a lot. So. Why didn't Iris win? It's not that there was no harpist around initially. She intimidated them all with a harp and off they fled. No, that's not really the case at all. There's just, I don't live in a super big place. I don't mind saying I live in Winnipeg, which, yeah, it's just not like harp central. But that means that it's not that hard for me to make a living. And it's also a pretty affordable place to live, so. Also, it's flat, so when I need to move my harp around, I don't need to go up and down hills, which is great. So, how does it feel to hug a harp? I mean, I guess you could argue that playing the harp is like hugging it. It feels, you know what, it's hard to not have tension in your body is something I would say about that. Other than that, I don't know how to answer that question. Isn't there a folk story about a musician beating a monster with a harp as a weapon? Is that like David and Goliath or something from the Bible? I don't know. Maybe. So next up I have some questions about past videos and stuff like that. So first question I have is, which cover of yours do you wish had more recognition? And I sort of feel like I have just accepted the fact that the algorithm doesn't care. It doesn't. Like, just expect that you will have average viewership like you've always had, and that's kind of the best mindset to have, I think. But I looking back, I think there were a few videos that I did hope would take off a little bit more than they did. One was a few years ago. I did a cover of Praying by Kesha, and I did it with 4 harps, and I thought it was so cool. Like, I had the video like all set up, so there's like all 4, it looked like is all in the same room, and I thought I did such a good job with the arrangement, and I still do, actually. I think it's a great arrangement, but I don't know why I thought it would do better than it did, but it makes sense why it didn't. Like, it was already not a super new song by the time I put it up. My audience is not really into pop music. Like, it's not from a video game, and yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so that was one that I kind of hoped would do better. And then the other ones I would say would be some of the Undertale videos that I did. I mean, there's still some of the top performing videos on my channel. I remember when I put up my Undertale medley, which is now the only video on my channel to have gotten past 1 million views. It didn't actually take off until maybe about a year after I posted it. And I remember I posted it kind of like peak Undertale hype like season, and it really didn't do that well, and I was quite disappointed about that. And then it took off later, and then I made some more Undertale videos. I did Megalovania, Waterfall, and Memory, and yeah, I was kind of hoping that those would maybe do well because of the hype around the medley. They still are some of the best performing videos on my channel, like I said, but I kind of hoped that that I could take advantage of Undertale a little bit more. Yeah, you really can never guess. So I think that if you kind of try to define your happiness around what does well, you're gonna have a bad time. So yeah, I mean, like, Bubblegum KK did really well, and I was hoping that it would because it lined up with the Animal Crossing release, and it did. It did significantly well. I mean, it didn't blow up, but, it did well. So that's nice. It's nice when it happens, but I don't really fixate on that. Thanks, Olga. Thanks so much. Yeah, okay, so next question that I have, which video was the hardest to make, either the arrangement, filming, or editing? And this, I have a hard time answering because I feel like I always write myself really difficult stuff to play. But I think maybe the hardest one was actually, again, the Sound of the Wind cover I did this summer. The transcription was tricky because it's hard to hear what instruments are going on, and like it's not originally harp. There's like a bunch of folk instruments that I had to transcribe, and then the recording I think was okay, but then editing, it's a much bigger mix than I usually work with, so I really struggled with that, and also making sure everything sounded in tune. That was a lot of work. And then like editing the video, there's a lot of videos to put together, and so that one took me a lot of hours for sure. But I can't really think of anything else that really stands out for being really hard to film or arrange necessarily. So I remember the Undertale medley was hard to play. Like, there's a lot of sort of non-harpistic things that I did in there. Also a lot of pedals. Kind of related, when I wrote the Undertale medley, a lot of the songs on the Undertale soundtrack get really chromatic. They just go and they're like, okay, let's change key by 1 semitone. And so I'd be going through these songs and I'm like, oh, look at that key change. Now's a great time to switch songs in the medley so I don't have to deal with all of these pedals. So yeah, okay, what would you advise someone who only has a Celtic lever harp to do to make up for not having pedals? try to work in keys that complement your instrument. So if you can find stuff that is modal, so like if it's like Dorian mode, Aeolian mode, like those sound awesome on Celtic harp. That said, I mean, there are a lot of things you can do to get around your levers and things like that. You can kind of like take notes out of a harmony. It sometimes sounds a bit less satisfying because you have to do some weird things with voice leading sometimes, but you just really have to get creative, and just experiment. Like try, like if you're like, okay, I need to play this harmony at this point in the song. What are all of my options for alternate things I could do? Play them all, see which one sounds best, and go with that. Yeah, pedal struggles are real. Yeah, a pedal, one of the ones that has really hard pedals would be Promise of the World from Howl's Moving Castle. That one. That one was a challenge to play as well, for sure. And then, okay, so we have what was one of your favorite covers to learn or create a video for. And once again, I'm going to come back to my Sound of the Wind cover from Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. It's a song that I literally have wanted to cover since almost the start of my YouTube channel. It's a song from a video game that I've always loved and always come back to, which for me is kind of a big deal because I feel like I always will listen to something and love it and then kind of move on. And it's not like I dislike it, but it's just, I don't know, it just doesn't really stay with me as much. But that one has always really, really, I don't know, like just spoken to me. And to finally do it, and I think I did a really good job with it too. I feel like the mix wasn't perfect, but overall I'm really happy with how it turned out. So that's probably my favorite. But Primrose, I really like Primrose as well. From Octopath. What kind of games do I like? I really love strategy games. So anything with some kind of strategical aspect to it. So obviously I love Fire Emblem. I've played a lot of XCOM. I've been playing Dicey Dungeons recently. I enjoy, what else? Like, I played a bit of Slay the Spire for a while. I did some, like, Hearthstone Battlegrounds. Almost forgot the name of it. Things like that. I think I liked Octopath Traveler a lot for that reason. I mean, it had a great soundtrack, it had good story, it had good characters, but also, like, kind of the strategic element of choosing your party and then, like, using their abilities in good ways, like, that sort of thing. I love Zelda too. I actually, like, I adore Breath of the Wild. I love Zelda games. But besides those, I don't play a lot of, like, RPGs and adventure games for the most part. Yeah, Ace Racer or TV, right? Yeah, the strategy game streams are fun to watch. Yeah, I love doing those on stream. So for those of you who don't know, I do stream games occasionally on Twitch. It's just twitch.tv/Samantha Ballard. But yeah, that's usually where I stream games. We've been doing Fire Emblem recently. Dicey Dungeons is a nice old time waster. Yeah, definitely. Sometimes takes longer than I kind of anticipate. Is there any series of games that you've wanted to cover the music but haven't? I'd love to see you try something from the Chrono series. People ask me for Chrono series all the time, especially at the beginning of my channel. I'm not familiar with it at all, which is why I haven't done it. I really started playing games like GameCube era. GameCube was my first system. Prior to that, it was like educational PC games. And like Harry Potter, like RPG on the computer. So yeah, some of those older games, I'm not really familiar with the music. But I have really wanted to do something from Hollow Knight. Like, there's so much harp in that soundtrack. How have I not covered it yet? I don't know. I haven't gotten around to it. I've also basically done nothing from Pokemon, which, like, I find weird. I guess, like, the music of the games never really stuck with me. I could hum a bunch of tunes from, like, Pokemon Red. Like, it's Red and Blue, right? Red, Blue, Yellow. So something from that I think would be good. Who's my favorite Fire Emblem character? Bernadetta. 100% Bernadetta. I love her. I love her so much. Let's see here. Favorite track from the series? It's got to be Somewhere to Belong from Fire Emblem Three Houses, the cello one. It's such a bummer that it's not on the sound selection, or I would have covered it by now, probably. Will I play Cyberpunk 2077? I feel like I will, just because Ragnar wants me to. I think Ragnar's planning to play it for sure, and then I can just use his Steam library to try it out. But I don't really think I'm gonna love it, but I'll definitely try. Educational PC games, nerd alert. Oh, you caught me. You caught me. Anyone here play Clue Finders? Because I played those a lot. James McCarter. Samantha, I'm really enjoying this. This is Jim from Alabama, the oldest beginning harp student in the northern hemisphere of the planet. Yes, I got your question. I'm planning to get to it in a little while, Jim. Thanks for being here. You should definitely try Chrono Trigger. I'm sure you'll fall in love with it. Yeah, I think, was it you who was telling me that there's like a really good PC port for the Chrono Trigger, I think? I don't know. I'm sure I'll play it at some point, I just have no idea when. Because, honestly, I'm going to be completely honest here. Playing Chrono Trigger sounds like a chore. I don't really like old media. If it doesn't age well, I don't care. Like, I don't want to put up with it. Like, anyway. I'm sorry if that offended anybody, but, Octave, welcome. No worries for missing the first bit. You'll definitely be able to go back and watch the first bit later if you'd like. But how's my neck and shoulders? My chronic pain has been pretty manageable lately, I would say. It definitely kind of gets better and worse just because of whatever I'm doing. But lately I've been able to do about 30 minutes to an hour of practice a day, and also do all of my desk work, and also like do my hobbies like gaming and knitting without being too sore. So you know what, I'll take it. I will take it. I think for my shoulders and my neck, actually the biggest thing is just watching my posture when I sit in my desk chair, because especially when I'm teaching all my lessons by Skype right now, so it's very easy to just sort of like hunch and then my neck and my back really hate me later. But, yes, Ragnar is taking care of questions as well. So if I miss one, I will definitely get to it later. Clue Finders was my childhood. My school sent them home each year for a demo, and I never quite had time to finish them before we had to return them. That's awesome. Glad to see some fellow Clue Finders fans. I really liked the like third grade one with all the slime. That one was great. It's just a normal port, nothing too exceptional. No, that's too bad. Hey, Hannah. Nice to see you. Have you ever listened to the Star Wars Old Republic soundtrack? Some of those will sound beautiful on a harp. Probably. I'm not really into Star Wars. Like, I would say moderately. I'm moderately interested in Star Wars, but only, again, because Ragnar's like, hey, watch this. And I'm like, okay, sure. Okay, since I liked Octopath, you're pretty sure I'd enjoy Chrono Trigger. It's aged really well? Okay, well, I will have to check it out. But again, I don't know when that will be, because there's always new releases and things I want to play and things I want to replay. One day I'll play it. Just no promises on when. Playing badly aged games can be a chore, but I do think Chrono Trigger has aged really well. Okay. Imperial March would be finger cancer. I mean, I don't think it's really a great one for harp. I'm sure it's possible. I'm sure someone has done it. Actually, I played like kind of the chorus of it for a wedding once because someone asked me to, but I did not arrange the whole thing, so I was like, no. Your friend has a cat named Ragnar. Nice. Yes, I do enjoy The Mandalorian. I think I enjoy it. Am I a huge fan? Yeah, Star Wars isn't for everyone. That's very true. Age of Calamity is patiently waiting for me. That is true. I do want to play that, but I'm almost done my Xenoblade Chronicles run, and I really want to finish that before I start a new game. I'm almost done rebuilding Colony 6, so, you know, making some progress there. Okay, so I have some more questions about favorite things. So I will preface this by saying I don't like picking favorites of things. I don't really consider things my favorite unless they like really strongly stand out to me. So a lot of the times I'll be like, if I had to pick, I guess I'd pick this one. But it's not necessarily a super strong feeling all the time. So, okay, who is my favorite composer? I will split this into like games and classical music. I think for classical music, I pick Tchaikovsky. I feel like that's a really basic answer. But I really love his ballets, and yeah, I feel like if my favorite piece of classical music is Liebestrom, well, yeah, I love Liebestrom. I also love Mahler too. But I really love Swan Lake, like a lot. He also had lots of nice harp cadenzas, so that's, you know, a plus for Tchaikovsky. As far as game composers go, I guess I would have to pick Koji Kondo because, like, Zelda, you know, most of the first year I was on YouTube, I did Zelda covers. Maybe 2 years, just Zelda covers. I don't know. Nothing else really necessarily sticks out to me. I have a question. Do I carry the harp myself when I record outdoors? Oh, yes. I move my harp anytime I go anywhere. So if I bring the pedal harp outside, it's because it's somewhere that it's easy to get it to. But I do have a dolly. You can actually see in my background, I don't know which shoulder this will be, this over here. You can kind of see my dolly through my harp strings. If anyone doesn't say Koji Kondo for VGM composer, they're wrong. There's lots of talented composers, there are, but yeah, you know, he's left a huge legacy for sure. Lol Play Felix says, opinion on rhythm games. I don't really play a lot of them. I used to play a lot of Rock Band when I was in high school, when that was a thing, but yeah, generally I'm not really drawn to them. I'm a cellist, so I know I'm supposed to hate Pachelbel's Canon D, but it's still one of my favorite pieces. You know what? It's a classic for a reason. Like, it is good. I mean, I play it all the time for weddings, and I actually love playing it for, like, processionals and stuff because it's so easy to loop or end anywhere I need to. And I think, too, like, if you're not just playing the bass line over and over again, it's not that bad. It's really not. No one else can be trusted with the precious instrument. Yeah, basically. I mean, I know how to do it. I have a very good sense of, like, if it's gonna fall over or something like that, you know what I mean? So, yeah, oftentimes, like, when I'm putting the harp in the car, I'm very good at doing it by myself. I have a system, and actually adding a second person actually just screws everything up and it makes it harder. So sometimes, like, if I'm at a gig, someone will come up to me and they'll be like, hey, can I help you load that? And I'll be like, please don't. Like, I'm happy if people will hold doors open for me, because that's actually the hardest thing, is if there's no door opener or like a doorstop or anything. So holding doors for me is great. If it's really windy, if someone can hold the harp and make sure it doesn't fall over while I get the car open and everything, that's great. But once I'm ready to go, like, please stand back and watch. Yeah, it just makes it harder. Yeah, I think Nobuo Uematsu is definitely one of my favorite VGM composers too. Like, I've never even played one of the Final Fantasy games that he's composed for, but I love the music. I love the music for those games. Like, and I think it's really speaks to the skill of the composer if you can fall in love with the soundtrack having never played the game, because I think a lot of people's love for soundtracks comes from nostalgia and the fact that when you're playing a game, you've probably heard this before, but like when you're playing the game, the memories you make playing the game feel as though you were actually the one doing the, you know, saving the world or whatever. So then you have this music associated with these memories, and so the connection to the music then becomes very strong for that reason. But if the music is amazing without that, like, I think that says a lot. Big fan of Gareth Coker. Yeah, I love the Ori soundtrack. I don't really know any of his other work, though. Maybe random, but one, do you like The World Ends With You games? I'm not familiar with it. And to its music, yeah, I'm not familiar with it at all. Who'd I like to play a duet with? I don't know. Whoever wants to play with me, more or less. I feel like I should qualify that with, like, hopefully another professional, just so that it's nice and seamless. Thanks, Hassan. Really appreciate it. Yeah. Do I like when it's snowing? I love when it's snowing. I love when it's snowing. It's so pretty. Okay, another favorites question. Who are my favorite harpists? Who is Paganini of the 21st century? So I'm assuming Paganini of harpists of the 21st century. So some of my favorite harpists are Anneleen Lenertz. Her playing is so expressive. I love it. She did like a Schubert and Schumann album with like a clarinetist, and it's like so good. You should listen to it. I also really love Xavier de Maistre. I love his playing. Also love Celtic harper, Aria Frankfurter. His O Carolyn album is like, it's magical. It has like nickel harpa in it and stuff, and recorder, and it's like, it's so good. It's so good. As far as who's the harp Paganini of the 21st century, I'd probably say like Sasha Boldachev or something like that. Or I guess, I don't know if he goes by Alexander Boldachev now, but that would be my answer to that question. Have I ever played with a saxophonist? Not with harp, no. Unless you count the collab I did with Insane in the Rain Music last Christmas. So if you count that, then yes. I remember when I was in school, it was like a month before our recital season, and a saxophone student reached out to me and said, hey, want to accompany me with this on my recital in a month? And I was like, bro, you plan your recital 1 month in advance? I've been prepping for my recital for a year. And I was like, no, I don't have time to learn this song in a month. Oh, gosh. Harp life. You're in Austria and the snow is just starting to come. Yeah, we've had a little bit of snow for a couple of weeks now here. It keeps getting warm and then cold again, though, so I don't know if it's going to melt and then fall again or what, but yeah. I have another question. What would you recommend to a person who wants to fall in love with harp music? Listen to a lot of it, probably. Trying to think, like, which songs I really love. I love La Source by Alphonse Hasselmans. I love Debussy's first arabesque on harp. I love the Moldau transcribed for harp. These are all things that I've played. I love the Winter Harp is an ensemble from Canada who plays Christmas music, and that's the first like harp concert I ever went to. They came to Winnipeg when I was in high school, and that's like that was a huge inspiration for me for a long time, because I think they do such a fabulous job of creating energy in their performance. So I'd check them out too if you like Christmas music. But yeah, just listen to a lot. If you also count the KK Cruising Club, then you've played with saxophonists. That's true. That's true too. You play saxophone is why you asked. I never get why people wait so long to prepare for recitals and concerts. You know, I think when you do get to that stage of playing, for instruments, I don't know. This is the perception that I have. But if you play an instrument that only plays one note at a time, you can learn things quite quickly. I understand that like there are still very difficult things to do on those instruments, but depending on the difficulty of the song, if it's not that technically challenging, it's maybe more musically challenging. Like I could definitely see someone like just spending a month prepping, or maybe he just left it to the last minute to ask me. I don't know. But I definitely, like my harp teacher would say, you know, she walks into a rehearsal that she's been practicing like mad for, and then the violinists walk in, they're like, oh, what are we playing today? You're just gonna say Rita. She's like, oh, not fair. But yeah, Hi, Guillermo. Greetings. As a Canadian, my dog likes to use the snow as a pillow. Oh, that's interesting. Favorite YouTubers? I feel like talking about my favorite YouTubers on YouTube is like, I don't know. I feel very shy to do that. The ActRaiser Symphonic Suite was the first time I realized how much I enjoyed harp music. I actually don't know what that is, Michael, but yeah. Thanks so much, Aaron. Thanks for coming by. But yeah, okay, so next favorite question. What about I enjoy playing more, classics or covers? Covers 100%. Classical music. I do have a little bit of classical stuff on my music stand just to like kind of work on my skills and keep those kind of sharp, but I find that like learning it and perfecting it is just so much work, and I just always feel inadequate when I play it. So yeah, I love video game music. It makes me so happy to play, so yeah. As a tuba player, I just show up and it's all good. Much less prep and practice than playing the flute. Switching from flute to tuba was the smartest decision my band director made for me. I can see that. If you're tuba, I feel like you're largely playing long notes, so as long as you can hit them and you know where to come in, then you're good. All my favorite YouTubers are my friends, so it feels awkward to say. Yeah. Pretty much. I'm like, Actually, you know what? One that I have really been enjoying lately is actually like I really enjoy historical fashion YouTube. So I don't know how to say her name, but it's like Zabrina something Polish. I don't know how to say her last name, but she makes such hilarious like get ready with me, but it's 1588 and like stuff like that. I love it. I love hearing her talk about, you know, how movies get the costumes wrong and stuff like that. So since that's completely unrelated to music, I don't mind saying that. Am I a good sight reader? No, I'm really not. If it's simple, if it's easy, I can sight read it. If there's like any pedals at all, forget it. For the most part. Or if it's fast. Carolina. Yeah. That's the one. I think I mixed up the letters of her name. Sorry, I'm just reading some comments here. But so I'm a trumpet player and never met a harp player. Of all the instruments available, what swayed you towards the harp? We talked about this a little bit earlier, but... Oh, maybe I didn't talk about this very clearly, but I decided to play the harp because I thought it would be a good career instrument. I was like, I can play solo at weddings, I could go play on a cruise ship, I could play with ensembles still, so that is like literally why I chose the harp. So yeah, Bernadette Banner is awesome as well. They're both so fabulous. I love when people who are super knowledgeable about something like just make that really interesting content, and you just like learn so much just from watching them, and like I'm just so happy for them as well. I have a couple of short questions here. What's your favorite color? It's purple. And do I like Avengers? I don't dislike them. I'm not really into superhero narratives for the most part. Like, I will go see a movie if Ragnar's like, hey, let's go watch this in theaters. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fine. I'll do that. That was fun. But I'm not very invested in Avengers. That's true. You kind of own the harp business sector now. I mean, I wouldn't say I own it, but there's definitely a lot of room within this field for sure. On that note, what are some goal places / events you'd like to play in the future? I don't know. I don't really like performing live that much. I don't actually mind being on stage. It's just that... So there's a couple of things. Partly it's like preparing for a live performance is really involved, at least for me. Like, I make a lot of mistakes when I play live. Like, I tend to anyway, and so in order to not do that, I have to put in hours and hours of practice. And so with chronic pain, that means that I can't work on new recordings and things like that. So generally, I don't prioritize playing live anymore. But the other thing is that I play mostly like really relaxing kind of slow-paced music, and even when it feels to me less slow-paced, people are still like, oh, this is so relaxing. So I feel like it's really hard to manage like sort of the energy of a live show when I'm playing solo. So I don't know where I would like to play. I'll play in my living room, and you know what I'd love to do is get featured in Harp Column magazine, be on their front cover. That would be great. Hashtag goals. What's the most complicated piece you've played perfectly? I've never played anything perfectly. What? What kind of question is that? Yeah, it takes so much time to prep for live performance. And there's a lot of stress. Yeah, I mean, to me, it depends on the situation. Like if I'm just sort of doing my Christmas concert that I have done in previous years, I don't find that as stressful because I know that the audience that's coming, like they're going to have a good time for sure. So I'm just going to have a good time too. It's going to be a great time all around. Classical music, like really high level classical music, especially for an audience that listens to a lot of classical music and kind of knows their stuff, like that I find very, very stressful. When you play and really feel good about the time you put in and how the performance went, then I feel really accomplished. I think that's fair. I mean, like for a lot of people, live performance is like their thing, and I absolutely acknowledge that. For me, I always feel after a performance, I get off stage, and then that's it. It feels very anticlimactic to me, for the most part. Whereas with a YouTube video, I spend all this time making it, and then I put it out, and then it like continues to be watched and enjoyed like for years to come, potentially. So I've never really done any jazz on harp. I don't actually know that much about jazz, despite being in jazz band in like junior and high school. But I love jazz harp. I think it's very cool. I just don't know really much about it, honestly. The pedals, I think, would be very difficult to deal with in jazz. I have another question. Also, is there any particular game, show, movie, whatever, that you're obsessed with at the moment? I'm obsessed with Fire Emblem. I'm obsessed with Fire Emblem. I am not over it at all. I don't know if I'll ever be over it. I'm just all Fire Emblem all the time, honestly. There's not really any shows that I'm like obsessed with. I really like to watch K-dramas though. Some of them are great and some of them are terrible, but they're fun. I feel bummed after a live recital always. I know, it's like, it's really weird. I feel like, especially because like some people will stick around after a concert and come up to you and be like, oh, you did so great. But then they leave, and like most of the audience just leaves without talking to you. It's like, okay, now it's time to pack up my harp. How glamorous. So, yeah, I don't know. I always feel like really, it's nice if you can kind of go for drinks after or something like that, but you know, if I have a concert in the wintertime, it's like, okay, you got to take that harp home. Can't leave it in the car somewhere. Heck no. Okay, so next up, I have besides music from video games, anime, TV, movies, pop culture, what other musical genres interest you or would you like to play? I feel like I have a fairly eclectic musical taste outside of like the stuff I cover on YouTube. I do enjoy pop music, quite a lot of it. I also really enjoy sort of like oldies. I love folk music. Pretty much all I've been listening to this year is Jason Mraz. I'm obsessed with Jason Mraz. Like I'm not obsessed with him, but I really like his music a lot. His albums, Yes and No, are both so good and so like uplifting, and I love them. Hi Diego, thanks so much for coming by. We have a question. Your top 3 to 5 FE characters. Okay, well, we already know that Bernadetta is my fave. I love Bernadetta. Number 2, maybe. I feel like I have to say Felix. I think he's such an interesting character. And number 3, I feel like they're all going to be Three Houses characters, but I think they're some of the best characters actually in the whole franchise. Like, I really love the Tellius games, but I think that the characters are not the strong point of that game. I think it has a great narrative and a great story. I think the characters are not that compelling to me for the most part. So I have Bernadetta and Felix, and I have, I love Ferdinand. I do love him. I love Annette. Kind of love them all, though, except for maybe Flaine and Lawrence. Playing in a band, I always felt great after performance, but that might have to do with that it's a group of people. Yeah, I think that definitely is part of it, although when I was in orchestra in university, I wasn't really friends with anyone, so I would just go home. Or, like, a lot of the time I'd only play in one song, so I'd just go home after my song was over. But I do think, though, playing Mahler's Second was, like, definitely a different experience. I actually had one of my friends where we both played harp in it, and got standing ovations both nights, and, like, that was really special to actually be on stage at the end of the concert and get the applause. That's nice. Patty, we know it isn't Flaine. Yep. You know it. Hey, Charlie. Thanks so much for coming. Nice to have you. Langstrand, nice to see you as well. Yeah, I do. I feel like with classical music, I always love the songs that I've actually played the most because, I mean, it's kind of just how classical music works. The more you hear it and the more you study it, the more you like it. So, like, Mahler 2, I love. I don't really know any of his other symphonies, to be honest. Bartok Concerto for Orchestra, like, the first time I heard it, I was like, ew, I hate this. And then I played it with an orchestra, and I was like, oh, this piece is amazing. Those clarinet solos are so good. Richard says, at the time I thought the Tellius characters were fantastic. In hindsight, I've realized it was mostly stuff I projected onto them. That's really interesting. Yeah, I think the characters are kind of whatever in that game. They're fine. There's nothing wrong with them. I just think that the characters in Three Houses are more compelling, at least to me. Okay, so continuing on. I realize now too, like, I told Ragnar, like, copy and paste questions and, like, save them for me, but I've mostly been answering them. I think I've been doing a good job. Okay, so next up, I have a bunch of questions about people who want to learn the harp or play the harp. So I feel like this is relevant to kind of what we're talking about in chat and stuff. So I get a lot of the time, like, I want to learn to play harp. What should I do? So first of all, I would say if you have the option to rent a harp to start with, do that. In Canada, Long & McQuaid will, if they don't have one in stock, they will order a harp and rent it for you. For a very affordable price. So I definitely recommend that to people starting out because a lot of the time people try it for a little while and then they're like, oh, this is way harder than I realized. And then they don't want to do it anymore. So if you bought a whole $3,000 harp or whatever, like, that's kind of a bummer. The other thing is I do recommend finding a harp teacher to help you because, like we kind of talked about earlier in the stream, the hand position, it's kind of tricky and counterintuitive, and it can be difficult to learn properly without someone there to kind of watch your hand because you might be doing something wrong. You think it looks okay from your perspective, but you might not notice something that a professional would notice. And yeah, it's hard to change your hand position once you've really learned it a certain way. I get students all the time who kind of self-taught and the technique works until it doesn't. And then you get to the point where you want to play harder stuff, and then you have to kind of relearn some of the basics. So that's why I recommend getting a harp teacher if you can afford it. There are some good resources online. So we do have a question from someone on Instagram. Can I start to learn from videos on the internet? I just bought a Celtic harp with 26 strings. And I would say start with learning the harp with Christy Lynn. She makes really excellent educational content. People sometimes ask me if I'm going to make educational content, and it's just not really what I'm passionate about. But I think she does a fantastic job. Every time I watch one of her videos, I'm like, yes, I completely agree with everything. So I think that's a great place to start. I also think, like, she has like a Patreon where you can kind of sign up for a certain level and you get like sheet music for some things, or you can do like a lesson once a month with that. So I think like if you're really on a budget, I think that is a good place to kind of start. But if you can find someone in your area who will teach you, that's even better, I think. And then we have, you know, I want to buy a harp. What kind of harp should I get? And specifically, I have a question from someone in Canada who says, how can I get started on a budget harp model? So what I would say is, again, if you have a Long McQuaid near you in Canada, definitely call them up, see if you can rent one for a little while. In terms of starting harps, the ones I usually recommend are either harpsicles or Dusty Strings Ravennas. So the harpsicle is about the most affordable and still good quality harp you can buy. That said, so when I say good quality, like, it's not going to fall apart, the strings are spaced evenly, like, it will work, it will be playable. That said, they're built to be affordable. They're made out of plywood, so they don't sound amazing. I find that a lot of students will rent harpsicles to begin with, and then after, you know, a few months or a year, they're like, you know what, like, I hear you playing on your harp, Samantha, I would really like to sound like that as well. And they would like to get a slightly higher, you know, priced model of harp. So that's another great reason to rent. So you can start on a harpsicle. There's nothing wrong with learning to play on the harpsicle. It's just that you may not want to have that as like your forever harp. So if you do decide to buy one, you can probably sell it quite easily and get a lot of the value back. But when people decide to buy a harp, I usually recommend that they go with something a little bit pricier if they're able, because if you do get something, you know, if you get a Celtic harp that sounds quite nice, that's maybe like 36 strings is all you're ever going to really need if you just want to play as a hobby. If you want to go pedal harp, that's like a whole other thing. But, you know, a 26 string harp, there's lots you can do with that as well. And the Ravenna, so the Dusty Strings Ravenna is probably the most affordable harp you can get that actually sounds like really beautiful. Like, no one's going to hear you play that and think, oh, that was a cheap harp. So those ones are, I think, with a full set of levers, about $2,000 Canadian. So like it's not cheap, but they are good. And then from there, like, you can get more expensive stuff, but you know, I think about $5,000 to $7,000 for a Celtic harp is fairly average for something really high quality. I will say, if you're in Canada too, definitely check out West Coast Harps. They are run by a couple in Victoria, and they are super nice and super friendly and helpful. So definitely I would search them up as well. So Caladrius says, I concur getting a harp teacher. I used to be self-taught, but once I got a teacher, my skill level started accelerating way faster. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. I was just going to ask about harpsichord. Yeah, I mean, they're good quality. So let me say something else about like harps on Amazon. If Rosewood harps, I can't think of any other brands off the top of my head, but Rosewood harps are not good. Anything made in Pakistan has just like no quality control. So you may order something and it comes broken, or it falls apart really fast, or the strings break, or they're placed weirdly, or it sounds bad, or like whatever. Don't buy them. They're cheap for a reason. So yeah, the harpsicles, you know, they're quality made. They're just made to be affordable, and they sound like it. So yeah, I feel like if you're going to invest anyway, if you're American, if you have American dollars, I think it's maybe like $400 for a harpsichord without levers. That's not that bad. If you're Canadian, that becomes like $600 or something like that. And then if you want to get it with a full set of levers, it's like already $1,000 or more Canadian. You may as well just invest in something a little bit better at that point, I think. So Gabriel says, to relearn something the correct way, expert says that you must do it 1,000 times. With music, that isn't going to take a long time, but the first hours will seem the longest. Yeah, definitely. It's all about just how many times you do something correctly. That's like a whole other conversation about how our brain learns things. You also have to slow down. And you have to expect less of yourself if you're trying to relearn your technique, which is really difficult. Because it feels bad. Pineapple on pizza, yes. Very yes. I love Hawaiian pizza. The only thing I want from pizza is Hawaiian pizza, okay? Nothing else. Ham and pineapple, let's go. Also, in America, they call it Canadian bacon, which confuses me because we don't call that bacon. It's ham. Okay? Caladria says, I got a Dusty Strings Ravenna 26, and I have to say the 26 strings do feel kind of limiting. I often lack strings for the lower sounds. I agree with that. I think depending on what you're trying to play, sometimes I like playing on my Ravenna, but usually I prefer my the Sky right here, which has 36 strings. I think like if you want to buy a forever harp, if you find one that's about $4,000 to $7,000 probably, 36 strings, you don't really need to buy anything else ever again. So, you know, most people at some point will find that they want a little bit more range, but it makes it more expensive, obviously. I guess another thing that I didn't mention is if you want to buy a harp, buy as many levers as you can afford, because you will, if you want to like find sheet music for something and it's in a key that you don't have a lever for, you either have to retune your harp, which sucks, or you just can't play it. So going for levers is a really big thing if you're buying as well. If you live somewhere where there's, you know, a bit of a harp community, there might be someone who is able to install them for you. But if you live in the middle of nowhere, like many Canadians, that's likely not going to be possible. So you have to like ship it somewhere to get them installed, or you have to sell your harp and buy a new one, and yeah. Michael, I'm glad you share my opinion of pineapple on pizza. Yeah, Patty, I would definitely agree. Like renting the harpsichord and then buying a nicer one later. I think it's a good plan for a lot of people. You can see if you like it, you can kind of try it out, and then, you know, be saving up for something a little nicer that you will then own. There's many pineapple enthusiasts here. Yeah, okay, so Jim, I was just about to get to your question actually. So 13 months into weekly lessons, can you offer any tips to help me learn how to look at the music while I play instead of depending so much on my memorization? Oh, that's a great question. So a lot of beginning harp students struggle with this, and you have another question that I'm going to answer in a second too. You kind of just have to do it. So you want to make sure you have your music stand like beside your harp, about the height that your fingers are at, not too far away, not too far to the side, somewhere that you can really easily just glance with your eyes. A lot of students, I think, who have trouble reading music too are successful when they put in little markers, like write in markers in your music. You can use colors, you can use highlighters or colored pencil, like to mark in kind of the beginnings of little sections or beginnings of phrases, so that if you can kind of remember the phrase, so you glance up, look at your fingers, and then you get to the end of the phrase, you can glance up, quickly find your spot and look back. The other thing I would say is like actually just like work in looking at your music into your practice. Make that like a focus of your practice. So like actually taking note of where your eyes are while you're playing, and making an effort to look back and forth is what I would say there. So I had another question about how to practice. I have actually a number of questions about practicing, which I'll get to in a moment. But I had another one from Jim. So Jim was asking, is there a point where I can decrease my lessons to once per month without hurting my development, assuming I continue to practice a minimum of 1 hour per day, or is it important to continue the weekly lessons? So what I'll say is that's up to you. No one can decide that for you. But what I will say is that if you stop taking lessons, your development, your progress will slow down. It will. Because there's things that you can do yourself, absolutely, but there's going to be things that you maybe don't have the answers to, or things that you maybe don't hear or see that your teacher will see. What I find in my teaching experience is that students that want like bi-weekly lessons, they will make the same amount of progress in 2 weeks that a weekly student will make in 1 week. So if you're happy with where you're at in your playing and you mostly just kind of want to play more songs about the same level, then maybe you don't need to do weekly harp lessons, and once a month will be fine. If you want to keep playing harder and harder stuff, the lessons are probably going to help with that. So that's what I would say there. Patty says, wait, there aren't levers for everything? I didn't know that was something to consider. Yeah, some harps, they sell harps without levers on them because it makes them cheaper. More levers equals more expensive. So you can get harps that don't have any levers on them. You can get harps with just a few levers on them, which can be helpful for people who specifically want to play Irish music, because Irish music is mostly in like C, G, or D. So that might be all you need in that case. But if you want to play it in multitude of keys, then yeah, you need a full set of levers. Let me see. Okay, so I'll tackle the rest of the practicing questions, then I'll do some more from chat. So I have another one. How to practice coordinating two hands that have different rhythms, or how do you practice something that's hard because it's fast? Slow practice is the short answer to both of those questions, and practicing in chunks. So again, I mentioned Learning the Harp with Christy Lynn. She has a great video on this. I think it's called like 3 mistakes you're making with playing hands together or something like that. It has a very detailed description of how to play in chunks, which is very important. So please, I would check that out if you're interested. I would say, yeah, so you want to take like little bits of your song, slow them right down. There's something I love to say to my students, which is slow makes fast. And also, if you can't play it slow, you can't play it fast. So you want to start with it really slow, little tiny sections. In terms of playing something faster, you want to start with a metronome at a nice, comfortable, slow speed, move it up a click at a time. 1 click at a time. 1 click at a time. You'll get much faster that way, in a more controlled way, and you'll have better results. If you're learning how to do something with 2 hands and they have different rhythms, I'm thinking if you have like rhythms that are all like kind of on the beat, polyrhythms are something else, so we'll just not talk about those right now. But if you want to just coordinate your hands when they're doing different things, again, playing really slow. Like just do like start with 1 note, hands together, add another note, hands together. Then when you can do those 2 notes together, add another note, like seriously, and just repeat it a few times correctly. That's how you get it going. So again, that video by Christy Lynn is very good. When I edit this into a video, I will definitely link her video on that because it's so good. Okay, so some more from chat. I think we're talking about levers a little bit. Okay, yeah, so we kind of talked about that already. Here's the thing. Okay, so we're talking about pineapple and pizza. Here's the thing about it. I find that people who like pineapple on pizza, like I understand that not everyone will like the thing that I like, and that's okay. But the people who don't like pineapple on pizza are like, pineapple on pizza is an abomination. How dare you like it? Everyone who likes that, there's something wrong with them. And I just, you know what? I don't appreciate that attitude. So you can like whatever you want on your pizza. That is my official statement. Okay, do you tend to play more from muscle memory or actual notes in your recordings? Oh, I don't play from muscle memory for the most part. Muscle memory is so unreliable. I mean, it's important. Like, I do practice a lot, so you kind of learn things, but I always record with sheet music in front of me. Muscle memory is not, yeah, it's not great. Yeah, Emil, I know. I always think that if you can play it slowly, you can play it quickly. That's not true, but what is true is if you can't play it slowly, you can't play it quickly. That much is definitely true. I know, Emil, exactly. The pineapple lovers are so chill. And everyone just gets so mad about it. Everyone gets so mad. Okay, so that's kind of the learning the harp questions. And then I have a few questions about kind of future projects and things that I have planned. So I've kind of said before that I have an EP idea, and I've told my patrons that it's Carol and Tuesday. And yes, I still plan to do that, is the short answer. So back, like, as I was finishing up the Octopath album, I was like, okay, I'm gonna, like, take a little break over the summer, and then I'm gonna make this EP. It's gonna be out by the end of the year, and then, you know, pandemic brain took over, and that didn't happen. So I have a bunch of plans of things I'm gonna be doing next year, and I will talk about them in detail on Patreon. I'm gonna make a little vlog about that, but Carol and Tuesday EP is definitely happening. I said before, like, I've spent the whole year listening to Jason Mraz. It's been Jason Mraz and Carol and Tuesday, like, the entire year is all I've been listening to. So I really love the Carol and Tuesday soundtrack. I find it very hopeful, and I feel like we all kind of need that right now. So, yeah. We also have, am I planning any more collaborations with other instruments in the near future? I don't have anything planned right now for any collabs. Okay, that's not true. There's one secret collab that I can't tell you about. But this past year, I've done more collabs than the entire previous 7 years on YouTube. So I'm pretty happy about that. I think that they've sounded quite good, and yeah, I think it's really fun to get other instruments in on stuff. But I don't have any more plans right now. Okay, we already answered the favorite composer question, so I'll get you to watch the replay later, Lauren, but thanks for the question. And then the last one that I have is, do you consider mastering more instruments on a professional level? And the answer is no. Honestly, it is so much work just to be good at harp. And also having chronic pain makes it really, really difficult to learn new instruments. I mean, there's only so much time in the day. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a workaholic. Well, okay, Ragnar might disagree with me, but I don't know, like, I don't get energy from practicing, really. I enjoy practicing, but I already need to practice my harp. I don't have time to really develop those kind of skills on another instrument. Maybe when I retire. Maybe when I retire, I'll do that. I would like to get better at singing, so maybe that, I guess, if you consider that to be another instrument, but, okay, so now I've just got time for chat questions, so. Thanks for stopping by, Erin. Nice to have you. Okay, so Caladria says, my muscle memory sometimes just quits in the middle of a piece. Yeah, exactly. You can't rely on it, so yeah. Slow makes fast. That's someone better quote you, because that's a good one. It's just like practice makes perfect, only different. I mean, practice makes perfect, only perfect practice makes perfect, right? But it's nice and simple. Slow makes fast. Linda says, I'm so bad at reading notes fast, not too trained, also ADHD-ish, so I very often rely on memory, both muscle and just generally. Well, it's enough for my level. Yeah, I mean, I think that, okay, Ragnar, I've seen your message, so thank you. I think that muscle memory can be helpful. It's just when you go to play in front of other people, it tends to conk out, because the parts of your brain you use for practice and the parts of your brain that you use to perform in front of people are actually different. And so when you then are playing in front of people, your conscious mind wakes up and goes, what am I supposed to be doing right now? And then it goes, hey, muscle memory, what should I be doing? And muscle memory is not there. It's not there. And it's very sad. So, you know, that's why that's good. You know, I'm not actually seeing the questions that you put in the document, Ragnar. I refreshed it. I'll try restarting the app, I suppose. I don't know why they're not showing up. Practice makes permanent, for better or worse. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh, okay, I see these new questions here now. Okay. So we had a question from a while ago. How many years have you been practicing music? Since I was in kindergarten, so when I was 5, so that's what, 22 years? We had a question from before. Did you play an instrument for school that you forgot or never learned how to play? No. No, like I played flute. I played a tiny bit of piccolo. And I played saxophone. I still know how to play them generally. And actually, I know the basics of a lot of like wind band instruments because I worked at a school for a while, like teaching the beginners how to play their instruments. So I could tell a 12-year-old how to make a sound from a trumpet. I actually can make a sound on a trumpet. I'm not good at partials, but there's that. Oh, someone asked me, what's my favorite Christmas song? My favorite Christmas song, oh my gosh. I love Christmas music. I know a lot of musicians hate it, but I love Christmas music. So picking a favorite is hard. I do love Mariah Carey. All I Want for Christmas Is You. I do love that. I really love Oh Holy Night, especially when Josh Groban sings it. So those are probably my top two, I guess. The yellow is answered already. White is unanswered. Okay. Caladrius is asking, is it because of different parts of your brain? I always figure it's because of you being in a different environment than during your practice was the cause of that faltering. I think it's probably a bit of both. But definitely different parts of your brain wakes up. At least that's what I've been told. I could be wrong. But yeah, performing for family, for friends, like to kind of get used to that feeling is really good because performing in itself is its own skill. Absolutely. I too can make a sound on a trumpet. It may or may not involve me blowing in it and just using drumsticks. Oh no, your poor trumpet. Yeah, I understand not liking Christmas music, but I just love it. I really do. Do I like pineapples in brochettes? I don't know. Is that like a skewer? Kebab? Probably. I like pineapple in all manner of things. So. Oh, Linda's got to head out. Thanks so much for coming by, Linda. Yes, I'll be editing this down. I feel like I'm going to have a hard time, but I'll do my best to edit this down into something coherent. But yeah, that's like... It's like all the questions that I have. So, thanks so much, Ken. If anyone else has any questions now, please go ahead. Otherwise, we'll probably wrap things up a little bit. So, I'm trying to think if there's any like memorable things that have happened over my career on YouTube, but not especially. I feel like when you mostly are just kind of making things in your bedroom and then posting them. That's like, it's pretty chill most of the time. So yeah, I feel like we've mostly answered these questions. I'm kind of just like filling time because I do know there's quite a delay from me speaking to you hearing it. So, oh, we have some more favorite questions. Okay, favorite books. For a long time, I've said that my favorite book was Aragon, like that series, but I haven't really reread it in a long time. But I do really love Going Postal by Terry Pratchett. That was my first Pratchett novel, and I really, really loved that one. Other books. As far as fiction goes, I think those are my favorites. D&D character. My favorite D&D character that I've played is my halfling bard. Her name is Petunia. She is very greedy, and I love her very much. Favorite ice cream is Ben & Jerry's Half-Baked. It's so good. It's cookie dough and brownie bits in vanilla and chocolate ice cream. Will I be doing another Q&A in the future? Maybe. I mean, like you said, probably not anytime soon. But I don't see why not. Favorite letter of the alphabet? Oh, it has to be S, of course. The War That Saved My Life. It's a kid's book. I don't dislike kids' books. I've never heard of it, though. Okay, so we're getting a bunch of questions that I've answered already. So favorite composer and why I chose the harp, I've talked about already. So once the stream is over, the replay will be available for you to watch, and you can kind of go back and find that. I'll also edit this into a shorter video, and that will definitely make it in because they're questions I get all the time. So you can find it there later for sure. Yeah, 100K Q&A. Let's go. In 20 years, we'll be back for another Q&A. Favorite animated film that's not How to Train Your Dragon. Yes, very good. My favorite film is How to Train Your Dragon. So, favorite animated film that's not How to Train Your Dragon. I don't know. I like animated films. Maybe Tangled? I don't know. I feel like there's not a lot of movies that I go back to rewatch. I don't really like movies kind of in general. I feel like that's weird, but I don't really like watching them that much. But I do like going to see them in theaters and stuff. Yeah, you know what, Michael, if you like the stream, feel free to join our Discord server. There's a link in the description of the stream. You can talk about music with people there. I also, this is on Patreon, but I do actually like harp practice streams on Patreon that are members only, just to like keep things really chill. And you're welcome to come chat about music there as well. Yes, I've already played To the Moon, absolutely. Have you found a show to replace Court of Swords? Oh my gosh, that's so long. I actually stopped listening to Court of Swords for around episode 114 or so. So, yeah, the fact that it ended didn't really faze me in that regard. But I have been listening to The Adventure Zone, kind of, not religiously, but I've been listening to, I finished Balance, and I'm listening to, what's Amnesty? No. Yeah, Amnesty. I do enjoy that. I just listen to it when I'm knitting usually, which isn't that often, but... Okay, I feel some people have the same feelings as I do, prefer TV and games to movies. For whatever reason, like, I think it's about pacing. In a TV show, things will be paced in a certain way, so I could sit and watch 3 hours of a TV show, but if I see a movie that's like 2 hours, I'm like, I don't really want to watch that, it's too much commitment. I don't know, just something about it. And then I think I also really, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, okay. So when I start something new, I find it really hard to commit to like actually starting the TV show or whatever. So if I know there's a TV show and I'm gonna like it and there's like 50 episodes, then I'm like, okay, I'm set for like 3 weeks. I can just watch this one show and I don't have to find something new. But with movies, it's like I keep having to start new things, and I just find that quite tiring. I have not played Toccata and Fugue, no. For me, it's character development. It's not like not much can be done in one movie. That's also very true. Yeah, if you don't know the characters already, it's like, okay, well, first I have to actually know who these characters are and then be convinced to care about them, and then they need to get some development, and then the movie's over. So, yeah, that's definitely true. Movie trilogy or expanded universe may be a different story, though. Yeah, that's fair. The 3 best things about me? That's the hardest question anyone's asked me today. I don't know. I don't know. Chat, can you answer that question for me? Then I'll feel really good. That's so funny. Any thoughts on pipe organ as an instrument? Have been listening to a bunch of organ music recently. I'm not really into organ music, but I appreciate it as an art form. Yeah. Michael is impatient for a 3rd season of What We Do in the Shadows. Is that the one about vampires? Or is that what we do in the dark? I can't remember. Your cat is slowly getting used to your dog, and it's beautiful to watch them just be chill towards each other. I know what you mean. My 2 cats took to each other really fast, and they are just like best friends. They're like always together now, and it's so cute. Three best things about Samantha. 1, harp. 2, Bilbo. 3, Nora. Okay, so 2 of the 3 best things about me are my cats. Negative self-talk. I'm not being negative about myself. I just feel very awkward. I don't know, being like, this is the best thing about me in front of everybody. So, what's my favorite composition of Debussy? I do really love Clair de Lune, but only on piano, and only if it's performed in a specific way. Also love the first arabesque. Girl with the Flaxen Hair is pretty good. That's about it, honestly. Michael's still waiting for Firefly to come back. It might be waiting a while there, Michael. Oh, okay, Michael, it is the one about the vampires. I've seen that. I didn't realize they made more of it or something, but, Oh, I've been delivered a cat. Ooh, okay, here's Nora. Ooh, hi, Nora. Say hi. Hi, everyone. I think she's sleepy. I think she's been woken up from a nap. Ilu says, 1, amazing harpist. 2, amazing cats. 3, amazing person. Well, thank you. What do you mean by performed in a specific way, Clair de Lune? I just think that, like, there's certain interpretations of that song that I dislike. I think some people play it way too fast or too aggressively. And it just needs to be very ethereal, I think. A lot of people play the rhythm wrong also. Bye. She is very sweet. She's just sitting now. Am I getting a Bilbo delivery? I am! Hi, baby. We've got a Bilbo delivery. Okay, here's Bilbo. Also a bit sleepy. I think they were probably both napping right before this. Yeah, sleepy guy. And say hi? Hi. Hi, everyone. Nora disagrees with me, Clair de Lune. She was so offended by my opinion that she ran away. Hi, Renry. I think we're kind of wrapping up here a little bit, but nice to see you. Double kitty feature, indeed. My beautiful Bilbo. Yeah. Do you want to go down? Probably. Okay, you can go down. Bye, Bilbo. Yeah, they will tolerate it for a little while. Nora will allow it for quite a long time if she's sleepy. But if she hears something, because Ragnar was coming down the stairs again, so then she was like, what's that? And then she doesn't want to be held anymore. So yeah, they're good. They're good babies, and I love them. So, yeah, cool. Well, that was really fun, guys. I appreciate all of the questions. Like we said, 100K Q&A, here we come. Yeah, so I think we'll wrap it up there. Thanks for 50K. Here's to more music and more community in the future. Like I mentioned before, if you want more of this sort of thing where you have people to talk to about music and pineapple on pizza, we do have a Discord server. It's very nice there. People are very kind. There is a link in the description for that. And also, if you want to see me live, I stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/Samantha Ballard, for video games. And if you want to see me play harp live and kind of sit down on my practice sessions, I do that on Patreon. So, yeah, thanks again for being here. I really appreciate it. And I hope you have a good rest of your weekend. So, yeah. I guess before I go, I'll also say that for those of you who maybe missed some of it, don't worry about it. You know, we've all got busy lives. But the whole replay will still be here for you to watch at your leisure. And like I said, I will also be editing it down into sort of a highlights video. I don't know how long that's going to take me, because this is 2 hours of stuff. Oh my god, you know what I just realized? I didn't set OBS to record. Okay, well, I'll have to download the YouTube video, I guess, and it won't be very good quality. So that's a bit of a shame, but we'll make it work. It'll be fine. If I really have to, I can always just sort of re-record some of the responses to some of the questions, but yeah. Okay, that'll be it for this stream, I guess. So like I said, have a great rest of your weekend. Thanks for being here. Thanks for 50K. And we'll see you around. Okay. Bye.